Even Toni Wolfe lost interest. The truth be known, I only learned that today because I've been reading this book called Labyrinth, the story of Emma Jung's marriage to Carl.
I saw that.
It's
picked it up.
it's a terrific book, and I've been doing it on Audible, and a very terrific book. And one of the things they say in there is that in the mid-30s, when Jung started to get into alchemy, Toni lost interest in that. She wasn't interested in alchemy, and but she still came to the house every Sunday, and he still went to her place every Wednesday, right? And Emma tolerated it. But anyway, this book is very interesting in terms of talking about how Emma coped with the fact that there were other women in this thing. And also what I discovered in the last week is that another of the women that's in this picture in 1911, Maria Molzer, apparently was a much more significant figure than I thought she was. Okay.
Got this new book. He's finding out all these new things.
Well, this is the old book. I mean, so
Well,
this is
I
the
know that picture is full of people.
right. Okay, and there's some that aren't identified.
Right.
Several that aren't identified, and this is Marie Louise von Franz, who's doing selective identifying, right? And so. From various sources, I discovered that Jung had this early vision where his anima, he says later, this woman's voice told him that this isn't science, this is art. And he had a very negative reaction to that. And apparently that was his anima telling him that it's art, not science. And so his thinking side, his science side, was objecting to that fact. I mean, he saw himself as a scientist in his normal persona. So if the anima is telling him, man, this isn't science, this is art. But it turns out that voice came from Maria Molzer. It was Maria Molzer's voice because he had a strong transference with her. Now, where's the book?
Was she a patient at one time?
She was a patient, and then she became an analyst, obviously. So by 1911, she's at the Weimar conference with Emma, with Salome, and with Toni Wolfe. Salome had been the lover of Nietzsche and also the lover of many other men, but all including Freud. She got around. I mean, she was a generation older than Jung, right? She was 20 years older than he was. And there's a famous picture of Salome with this guy Andreas, who she ultimately married. It's just an apocryphal name, Salome, right? There's this picture of them where she's in a cart and there's a donkey and she's got a whip and she's holding it over Nietzsche. And Andreas is also in the picture. I mean, if you look her up on Wikipedia, you'll see that picture because it's a very famous picture.
What's interesting about this is that all of his conversions, so to speak, the women became analysts.
Yeah, many of them did.
And so they go from a state of completely wacky, apparently, neurotic or whatever,
right,
to these rational, well, I wouldn't say rational, but they must have been an intelligent bunch of people that were able to...
I think they were very bright people. And remember earlier on I was talking about the fact that there was a lot of abuse of women and children, but especially women and girls in Victorian society. In fact, it still exists everywhere.
Very destructive to the child.
Yeah, very destructive to the women. I think that these were the brightest women of their time that happened to come to Jung. You know, I'm sure there were lots of other women too that needed help. And first of all, he stopped them from being crazed about the fact that they're getting whipped by their father, right? Which is what they were crazy about. I mean, I think that was their psychological problem, that they were just being whipped and having other stuff taken out against them by their father. And of course, it still happens in the United States very broadly. So it's a huge problem in the human community.
Not just the women, though. In that time, there was an interesting book written about Weimar, the Weimar Republic,
Right.
and the psychology of men and their fathers. You know, it goes back to pre-World War One, but
Right.
that was that same destructive behavior on the part of the father toward his sons, and the sons were then militarized in the sense that they had this disturbance in them.
Right.
And so it apparently affected the whole.
Well, and Freud was always talking about the desire to kill the father.
Exactly.
You can understand why people would want to kill their father if their father's whipping up on them all the time.
Hitler was beating them to a pulp.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that's what was happening, that, you know, just some of these people were showing up at the insane asylum because they were so overwrought. And Sabina Spielrein was one of those, but Maria Molzer was one.
It was incredible he could turn them around like that. I mean, his skill must have been
Well,
phenomenal.
I think he was an early male feminist, right? And he was saying, you know, you have a mind and you know, you can be something too. And so gradually he got them calmed down, and, you know, then he built them back up. He gave them something new to look at that wasn't being attacked by men. Many of these women never married. I mean, Salome, she did marry, but she lived in a constant menage a trois, you know, with many men, not only Andreas, not only Freud and Nietzsche, but many others. If you look on Google, you'll see it.
Her resume of sorts.
Pardon?
Her resume of sorts.
It is a resume of sorts. I mean, she was a famous woman, but, you know, if there's a famous woman like that, you have to figure there's 100,000 other women that are doing similar things that never got through to be famous per se.
Continuing to repress it and just destroy themselves.
Right, and so, you know, you see it still in feminism today and in women's rights today. You know, you have feminism the people are working for the legal rights for women, one way or another, and we're the leading edge of that, but that's not so much, right? And on the other hand, you have the Phyllis Schlaflys of the world who say, oh, let's go back to being the cute little woman that bakes the bread and has the babies. You know, that's what she wants, or wanted before she died. So we're not that far from being barbarians, to be honest. We talk about the Renaissance and, you know, Venice and all these artistic people and so on. But for all that, which is what we have left from that time, plus the church things that were going on, there was a lot of shit going on everywhere. I mean, it still is. But in Western Europe, even then, through the Age of Enlightenment, things weren't that cool.
That's pretty much the human condition then.
Well, that's why we
have
have
effervescent civilizations where that's not really the rule, I would say.
I don't think so.
No? Like China, Rome?
No.
So you don't see it as an ascension and a decline in terms of
No, I think we've always been
individuals.
No, I think we've always been barbarians.
Oh, okay.
And there was a thin veneer of civilization on top of that.
And we
And
write the pretty history, and that's what's remembered, maybe?
yeah,
We hold up the best.
right.
And kind
We
of-
write the pretty history, but I can tell you that World Wars I and II were pretty ugly, right? They were nasty. And, you know, aside from the battles themselves, the Germans killed 12 million people or 6 million people. And so you go, holy cow, how can...
Well, it is true, at the height of the British Empire, you had the slums in London, which were unbelievable.
We've been watching The Crown, and so I've been looking at Wikipedia and stuff, right? And the Queen Mother, Elizabeth's mother, apparently said when a bomb fell in the garden at Buckingham Palace, "Oh, thank goodness, now I can look people from the East End in the face."
You know that thin veneer that you're talking about? It's believed. Okay, so like with the British during their imperial period, everyone believed that they were superior to the rest of the world, and that's what propelled them to
Sure, and it's
run the world like
right,
that.
and that's what's being destroyed now, and has been destroyed. It's actually been atomized in this country.
Collapsed.
It's collapsed.
So if the people believe it, they kind of don't see that underside so much. Right?
Well, or they see it as an aspiration, right? They see it as an aspiration. I can do this, but now if they see things like I've seen, which I was describing to you, then what the heck? You know, what are people going to do? How can you rely on society, because it's not as it has been sold to us? So civilization is a thin veneer.
You can think about Nazi Germany too.
That was high culture. Germany was
It
high
fooled all
culture.
the people until the Russians were in East Prussia. And then it became obvious that, hey, something's not right here, because the propaganda machine was so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But it was aspirational, like you said.
Right. And Germany was considered high culture in the late 19th century, right? You had Goethe and Wagner and all these people, Schopenhauer and on, Kant, all these guys